reading from Genesis chapter 6 and the entire chapter. Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he also is flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the men, the mighty men, who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. The Lord said, I will blot out man, whom I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. Noah walked with God. Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in the sight of God, and the earth was filled with violence. God looked on the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. Then God said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them, and behold, I am about to destroy them with the earth. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. You shall make the ark with rooms, and shall cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall make it: the length of the ark 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and finish it to a cubit from the top, and set the door of the ark in the side of it. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. Behold, I, even I, bring the flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall perish, but I will establish my covenant with you. And you shall enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds after their kind, and of the animals after their kind, of every creeping thing of the ground after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you to keep them alive. As for you, take for yourself some of all food which is edible, and gather it to yourself, and it shall be for food for you and for them. Thus Noah did, according to all that God had commanded him. So he did. Let us work in reverse this morning. Please go with me also to Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 8. Perhaps you know this already. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Notice that it does not say that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and tomorrow, for what happens the day after tomorrow? Jesus Christ, he is the same yesterday. He is the same in the past as he is today. And looking forward, however long the future is that God has planned for us in this world, we can be fully confident that Jesus Christ, representing his Father to us, that he is the same. Here we are talking about immutability, that God does not change. One of the great characteristics of God, along with his omniscience, his omnipotence, and his omnipresence, these things God does not change. Now, working backwards, as I said, John chapter 20 and verses 30 and 31. John lays out for us the purpose of this particular gospel account, but in this we also have scooped up, really, our Bible in a nutshell. John says to us, therefore, many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples. In John's gospel, there are 7, and they are frequently referred to as the sign miracles. 7 sign miracles of John's gospel. John says there were others as well. There weren't only 7, but I've recorded 7 for you. Many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples. They were witnessed. They weren't done in some dark corner where nobody could see them and just became some rumor later on. They were witnessed. But they're not written in this book. John then says, but these 7 have been written, they have been recorded, and John himself, not just a disciple, but one of that inner 3 of the disciples, powerful witness. These have been written so that they have been written for a purpose, so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Vital to grasp a hold of that. Believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, but it takes you a step farther. And that believing, you may have life in his name. The signs point decidedly to Jesus, and they point to him as the Christ, the Son of God. Believe that. Each and every one of the sign miracles tell us. Believe that this is no ordinary wandering rabbi. Believe that this is no ordinary miracle worker. And as you come to believe that Jesus truly is the Christ, the Messiah, the long-awaited one, the Son of God, you will enter into life in his name. Then, farther back, we come to Exodus chapter 4. And we've referenced this previously, but how I want you to understand and to really grab a hold of what is taking place here. Even as we have Jesus, immutable, the Son of God, he does not change. What we see there in the gospel accounts, we receive and we are blessed, we are strengthened with all that he spoke to those people, and he speaks to us with the same authority, with the same clarity, with the same punch. Moses, with his brother Aaron, at the outset of God's wonderful working, and there would be very definite sign miracles taking place here of the goodness and of the greatness of the power of God. Moses and Aaron, they gather together, the elders of the sons of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words which the Lord had spoken in turn to Moses, and they performed the signs in the sight of the people. As a result of seeing these signs, we read, the people believed. And when they heard that the Lord was concerned about the sons of Israel and that he had seen their affliction, then they bowed low and worshiped. They were beginning to enter into life in God's name. Prior to that, Exodus chapter 3 and verses 23 to chapter 4, verses 23 to 25. Moses, he had come and he had spoken, what do I say to the people about your name? God says, I am that I am. Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 to 25. It came about in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt, the one who had been so determined to kill Moses, that he died. And the sons of Israel, in their bondage, in their slavery, they groaned, they cried out, and they cried to help because of their bondage. This cry, it rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and God saw the sons of Israel and took notice of them. Here is the God who is not so distant from us that he does not hear the groanings. It's not that he does not hear the sighing of those who are hard pressed. God hears. God remembers his promises. God sees. God takes notice. Now, as Moses was coming to deal with the children of Israel, and as he, under God's hand and with God's power strengthening him, was going to lead them out of their bondage, surely many times Moses needed to have Genesis reverberating in his heart and in the heart of the whole nation as to who is this God. We've already considered how that this is the God who is the God of all creation, that he and he alone has made all that is round about us, that he fashioned this world and that he formed man of the dust of the ground, and then, not wanting Adam to be alone, he created out of the rib of Adam's side a helper to be with him. We've learned that this is the God who, even in the rebellion of Adam and Eve, was yet there to care for them. And even though heavy judgment falls upon them and upon this entire world, yet God continued to work with them. In the next generation, we see in the lives of Cain and Abel, we see that God did not give up, but that God continued to work with them. We see down through the generations recorded in Genesis chapter 5, how that death was very definitely working, though God's patience lingers long. We must never presume upon God's patience. We must never, and in the reading which was taken out of 2 Peter chapter 2, we must never think that God has said, well, we're going to just forget about all of that. The promises of God, the declarations of God, they stand in this world. The basic principles of this world, they yet stand. And with this background of who God is, coming into the head and the heart of Moses, coming into the head and the heart of the children of Israel, when they wondered, is this God really able to do what Moses thinks he is able to do? Is he really strong enough to best the gods of Egypt? They're pretty impressive, actually. This is a pretty developed country. Is the God who Moses follows after, is he really able to finish what he starts? One thing to start a project, but some of them were surely wondering, is it really possible? Genesis speaks in thundering tones. Absolutely, absolutely. Genesis chapter 6, I think, would especially be a powerful message to the children of Israel, because it is an account of deliverance. It's an account of God stepping forward, and God, once again, of his own initiative. It wasn't Noah who was saying, now God, we have a problem down here. These people are all so wicked, and I have a plan of how we might work this out. If you would just work with me on this. Absolutely the reverse. It was God, grieved in his heart, when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the polygamy that was taking place. We also read of great violence. Verse 5 talks about every intent of the thoughts of the heart of man was only evil continually. The wickedness of man was great on the earth. And God, deeply grieved that his creation had fallen to such a low ebb at this point. He was sorry that he had made man on the earth. And he said, I will blot it all out, man and animals and creeping things and birds, for I am sorry that I have made them. Then verse 8, but Noah, one man in the midst of the entire creation, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This morning we are remembering in prayer and honoring dads, and so I call this found favor for fathers. Noah, a dad, he found favor in the sight of the Lord. And the very first thing I want, after highlighting once again that God is the one who is the initiator here, that God is the one who is grieved with the wickedness of man, that God is the one who is the decider of what is right and proper, that which is righteous and good, and that which is wicked. Here, God makes a difference between the righteous and the wicked. And Noah, he is one who finds favor in the eyes of the Lord. And as we have it stated in verse 9, these are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, that he was in a right relationship with God, blameless in his time, and Noah walked with God. Now, I hope that that last phrase especially rings in your ear, that we've heard this before somewhere. And it was the testimony of Noah's great-grandfather, Enoch, in the midst of Genesis chapter 5. Genesis 5, verse 21, Enoch, the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God. And in verse 24 it says again, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now this time, God chooses not to take Noah out of this world, but rather to deal with him within this world, even as he brings judgment upon this world. Make no mistake that God does not have a cookie-cutter mentality as to how he deals with us. Sometimes we foolishly read books and we say, well, God did this for me, and so if he doesn't do that for you, then maybe you're not walking with God. Maybe you don't know God as well as I do, and we wonder, maybe we don't. Here, God is walking with Enoch, and he takes him in a moment of time, and he is gone. Noah walked with God, and God said to Noah, Noah, I know you're 500 years old. And, you know, a good half of your life, more than half of your life is gone and done. But Noah, I've got some heavy lifting for you to do. I've got some pretty serious work for you to do. Noah, I want you to build an ark. Well, Noah walked with God. Once again in verse 11 we read, and in the repetition, it is in thundering tones telling us the corruption, the wickedness, the violence. It was real. It was an affront to God. Now the earth was corrupt in the sight of God. Key description. Doesn't matter what the popular opinion, what the culture says, whether it says, oh, not so bad. You know, we've got statistics here that there are fewer murders this year than last year. Well, the whole point is that God did not want there to be any murders last year or this year, or the earth was corrupt in the sight of God, and the earth was filled with violence. God looked on the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. So God steps forward, and he talks to Noah. He talks to the man who he is walking with through this world. God says to Noah, Noah, I'm going to let you in on something. The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them, and I am about to destroy them with the earth. Now, Noah, there is a separation that I am making between you and your family and them, all the rest of them. I am going to spare 8 of you out of however many thousands or hundreds of thousands that there were by this time upon the earth. God has a plan. It's a detailed plan. He says you are to make an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. 300 long, 50 wide, 30 high, a window, a door, 3 levels, Noah. And I, even I, am bringing the flood of water upon the earth. Now, as we read earlier in Genesis, we read that previous to this, there was always a mist that would arise from the ground in order to water all of the vegetation. And so this is something new. It would most certainly be a point of scorn that Noah would be building something like this on dry ground. I'm sure the mockery, I'm sure that the chiding, I'm sure that that Noah was questioned as to his mental balance over and over again. But God had spoken to him. God had told him, Noah, sin is sin, and sin is an affront, and sin needs to be dealt with. But Noah, verse 18, I will establish my covenant. God is looking beyond the judgment that is about to come upon the earth, and God is looking beyond all of the mess and all of the labor that would be involved in that would take place here. And God is looking to a future for Noah and for his sons, for his family, for his descendants. I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Now, think about this for just a brief moment. Everyone on the earth at that time was a relative of everybody else. Now, in southern Manitoba, I know that there are some of you who in a strange way can connect yourself with people from all over the place, and I am amazed by that because I have very few family members across the country, and I just barely know any of them. And so when you are able to connect yourself here and there and to this person and that, when you talk about a third and a fourth cousin, I have no concept of what that is, and even beyond. But here, Noah and his family, they were related to everybody. They didn't have to go back to very many generations to link and say, oh, okay, you're down that chain, or you're down this chain, or you're over here. And so it was family, you could say, that were standing up. And Noah was cutting a different path. He was following a different tune. There was a different drummer that was beating the beat in Noah's life, and he was following after God. And God says to him, Noah, I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, birds after their kind, animals after their kind, creeping things after their kind. They shall come. Food, get it ready, God says. And verse 22, thus Noah did, according to all that God had commanded him, so he did. I'm happy to honor Noah. Noah distinguished himself in his obedience. He stood apart from the crowd of his day. But even as we honor Moses, and sometimes we get our language a little bit mixed up and we say, well, Moses, he was the one who led the children of Israel out of their Egyptian bondage. And Moses was the one who put up with them in those 40 years in the wilderness. And we need to take a step back and we need to say, God, using the vessel Moses, using the instrument Moses, God, with a mighty hand, went down into Egypt and brought out his own children, the children of Israel. God was the one who put up with them patiently, providing for them during their 40 years in the wilderness. And so, as we come here, yes, there was a lot of sweat over about 100-year time when Noah and his sons, they built an ark and they got things ready. But I would not want you to see Noah or Shem, Ham, or Japheth, for they were people just as you and me. I would want you to see the greatness and the glory of the God who looked down upon this world, having become so corrupt. And even as we had read out of Matthew chapter 24, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. It's vital that we understand these times of Genesis chapter 5 and chapter 6, for they are being replicated. And Jesus said, when these times come upon the earth, pay special attention, for very soon the Son of Man will come. Yes, we honor Noah as a man of obedience, as a man who walked with God, but I would want you to lift your eyes up off of just the human level and see that God is the one reaching down in love, saying, Noah, I delight in you. Noah, I want to provide a future for you. Even as I address the sin and the wickedness and the violence, I have a future for you. See the heart of God. See the plan of God. See the detail of God. See the goodness of God in every way, right down to the dimensions of the instrument that God would use for their deliverance. Should you ever wonder, does God really care? Does God really care? Jesus Christ, the same, yesterday, today, and forever. These things, Genesis, the gospel accounts, all of these things written that we might believe that there is the goodness of God extended to each and every one of us, and that it is for us today. Lord, we do give you thanks and praise for your goodness. We do give you thanks for your greatness, which has so lavishly brought about blessing to us, O God. How prone we are to wonder, to wander, to muse about, does God really know my name? Does God really care about me? Lord, may we see that you are the same God who cared for Noah in a wicked, violent time. And Lord, may we understand that you are the mighty God, the omnipotent one, the all-powerful one, the God of glory, who is able to care for us, to minister to us in our time of need, to patiently put up with us and lead us along. So, Lord, hear us. Should there be anyone here who does not know you, O Lord, may they see your character, may they see of your richness, and may there be that vital turning in their heart, that all of their own vain attempts would be set aside and that they would throw themselves upon you and upon you only this day, coming to the cross of Calvary and seeing that deliverance, most especially in vivid color, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.